Hey, it's Jack, and this video is the #1 surprising way that you may be undervaluing yourself. Hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'd love it if you would just click here and subscribe, join us. Or if you've been here a while and you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, then you'll hear about new videos as soon as they come out. And once you click that subscribe button, then you just want to click on the bell notification, because that keeps you in the loop and up to date. So, what is this #1 surprising way that you may be undervaluing yourself? So I want to just take a step back and talk about how this often gets talked about, value, in the kind of dating and relationship space. So people often talk about being or wanting to be a high value woman, right? Which would be probably contrasted to being a low value woman. Now, if you have neglected your own boundaries, if you have trespassed on your own values, if you have allowed people to treat you badly, it may be that for you it's important that you start to cultivate some of these behaviors that will be part of the teaching to be a high value woman, right? Would be things like respecting your time, respecting your boundaries, not being overly available. And there's a whole bunch of things that you could learn to do there, and that really might be important. And what I really want to get to in this video is what I would call like the real teaching around your own value. And the essence of the real teaching about your own value is that your value is non-contingent. Your value is not contingent, is not dependent upon anything. It's not dependent upon whether a guy calls you back, or whether a guy wants to be in a relationship with you, or whether a guy thinks that you're a good partner to him, or anything in that realm. That there is something about your value that is actually intrinsic to you, that your value kind of is, right? You might have come across this sort of old story that gets thrown around in the personal development world where you maybe I can even do this live for you if I can find something that I've got here. Okay, so you say, all right, this just about to go to England. This is a British £20 note. So you take a note and you say, hey, what's the value of the note? You say £20. Okay, great. And then I do this and I say to you, what's the value of the note? And you say, it's still £20. And then I take them on the ground, start stomping on it. And we run through this, and eventually the point is that no matter what happens, this still has its value. Its value is that it is £20. It doesn't matter how many scars, how many wounds, how many difficult experiences it's been through, the value remains the same. Now, what I want to say about this is that your value, if it's non-contingent intrinsic, your value is just because of who you are, just because you are here on this earth, you are incarnated, you have a uniqueness to your essence, you are a once in a lifetime person. There are things to you that are completely unique in your way of being, expression, and there's something precious about that. And the freedom that you can find in this area is really the freedom to stop locating your value in the external world, in the things that are reflected to you, in the things that people say to you. Now, this might be easier said than done, right? Of course, a lot of us, if we receive praise or admiration, we feel better about ourselves, right? Or if someone is giving us difficult feedback, we might not feel as good about ourselves. But I'm not talking about the sort of moment-to-moment fluctuations in self-esteem. I'm talking about the core beliefs you have about your own value. And if you make your value dependent upon the way that you show up, or certain actions that you take in the world, or even if you consider yourself a high-value woman because you do these high-value actions, I'm here to say that you're still in some ways on a hamster wheel of unfreedom. Right? The hamster wheel of unfreedom is that you've constantly got to do these things in order that you continue to feel valuable. Right? You think your value is dependent upon them, so you constantly have to take those actions, or you constantly have to be productive in certain ways, or you constantly have to show up for men in certain ways. Do you see how that can be exhausting? Do you see how that might stop you actually being yourself? Because underneath this, what I think is a better orientation is to say that you are enough, and that you in and of yourself are enough. You don't have to prove anything to anyone about yourself. That your essence, your authenticity, your uniqueness, these just are, and they're not dependent, they're not contingent. Doesn't matter whether other people see them. It even doesn't matter at some level whether you see them. You just start to realize that there's an intrinsic value, and that it doesn't go up and down depending on your latest actions, right? So what I'm here to say is that you might look at someone who, quote, considers themselves a really high value woman, and you might want to emulate some of their behaviors, and that might be successful at some level. But really, they're just as trapped on the same hamster wheel, right? That for every person that really considers themselves high value, there's a person inside them that's probably insecure about whether they really are valuable. And so I'm saying, let's try and free up the whole value conversation, the whole worth conversation, the whole respect conversation, and start to locate it more internally than in the flurry of activities that you have to sustain in your life to uphold a self-image that I'm a valuable person. Because that keeps you on this hamster wheel. I hope that's making sense to you. I'm sure it's starting to do so. Now, how do you actually do that? How do you free yourself from having a self-image about how valuable you are? Well, it takes practice, right? Like anything in personal growth, you might have to take aim at it, which means you might have to set an intention, and you may not even know how to go about it. And I'm here to say, and we can get into that a little bit, but I'm here to say that the desire to grow in a certain way, the desire to take aim at something often trumps any particular strategy about how to get there. Like if you care about something consistently over a period of time and you kind of offer it up to life and say, hey, this is something I want to learn. How can I learn this? And you keep that as part of your attention, you keep that as part of your meditation. Over time, life will often open up doors of awareness to you that wouldn't otherwise be available to you if you weren't keeping that kind of care and attention on the question. So you can sit with the question, how can I free myself of needing to do things to be valuable? And by the way, probably if this is a pattern of yours, it's probably a pervasive pattern. You know, patterns tend to happen pervasively. It's not just like it shows up with that one guy. It probably shows up in how you orient to your work colleagues, how you orient to your family, how you orient to your friends. Right? There are probably these ways that you feel if I do certain things or I show up in certain ways, then I'm valuable. Right? If I show up and help, then I'm valuable. Right? If I'm super well turned out, then I'm valuable, right? If I'm going really great in my career, then I'm valuable. If I have a hunky guy on my arm, then I'm valuable, right? There'll be all sorts of these underlying, probably sometimes somewhat unconscious contingencies that you are creating in your own mind about where your value is located, right? It can even be a similar thing. A lot of the people that teach, I think often good stuff around value are people that work with clients around money, right? And how can you free up your beliefs about money? How can you change yourself from a scarcity mindset into a more abundant mindset? And there's a lot of really cool stuff that can be done in that territory, right? And then people might learn to charge better for their work, or they might take a higher paying job. And again, that can be life-changing. And if you look at it from a kind of spiritual perspective, oftentimes they're still stuck in the same overall mindset, which is, now I'm worth more because I charge more for my time. Right? Rather than now I'm worth, period. Right? You start to see the difference in that. It's like you're no longer creating that dependency, right? You're no longer creating that dependency on, I need to keep charging well for my work in order to feel valuable. What about if I could just feel valuable and charge whatever I want for my work, right? And take whatever job I'm capable of taking. It's almost like there's a prior step where we start to realize, and here's the thing, if we want to talk about how do you do this in the strategy, I think the quickest way is to start to free other people up from the same racket, right? To start to free other people up that you don't look at them and say, he's done this amazing thing in his career, therefore he's more valuable, right? That person's in a relationship or not in a relationship, therefore they're more valuable, right? Or that person shows up in this certain way, therefore they're more valuable. You stop to look around you and see the world, rather than it being this kind of peaks and values of, more valuable, less valuable, someone I want to get to know, someone I don't want to get to know. There's a little bit more of a sense of, hey, there's a radical equality into being a human being. We're all here, we're all part of the mystery, we're all going to die someday. We all, breathe the same air. There are certain things that are really radically equal in all of us, and the more I can stop putting other people in this higher and lower, superior, inferior, more valuable, less valuable, the more I don't have to run that same thing on myself, right? Yeah, some days I may show up better than others. Some days I may be brighter, sparkier, more inspirational, more driven, right? Other days I may feel apathetic, or I may feel despondent or depressive. And it's almost like, how could you make those things not that one is more valuable than the other, just that they are all parts of your human experience. They're all welcome. Because where this tends to get stuck for people, or where you really start to get traction with this, is when you realize it's your inner critic that can still be getting in there, right? Your inner critic wants to see the world in this landscape of more or less valuable, because it wants to give you a laundry list of things to do that can make you, quote, better and more valuable. And that's not to say that some of the things that your inner critic comes up with might not be really valuable things in some ways, right? Yeah, right. It might be really good for you to be going to the gym 3 times a week, or to eat this different diet, or to stop seeing this particular guy. All of those things can be true, and there's this kind of paradoxical concurrent truth that the more you stop locating your value in these externally driven things, the easier time you're going to just have with yourself, that you can be with yourself in more situations. You can like the company that you keep. You probably don't have to run so busy. You probably don't have to run from yourself in the same ways. You're probably going to experience less shame about the parts of you that you experience as shameful. It's like your life can sit in this sort of groundswell of more ease, even whilst you may be in really difficult circumstances. It's like you're not now adding to the circumstance by believing that it makes you less valuable, right? From this deeper kind of inner work spiritual perspective, your value isn't up for sale. Your value isn't up for grabs or determination. Your value just is. You might have heard people talk about isness or suchness and these slightly kind of vague, abstracted spiritual words. And I think this is one of the realms where this meets the road. It's like your value is, period. Not your value is 5, your value is 27, your value is going up, your value is times 3 what it was last year. It's like your value is, everyone has an intrinsic value to them. That's the sense that I have. That's what's been useful in my own world. I've seen it in working with clients, and I'm curious what your experience is. I'm curious if you can get this difference, or even if you're able to locate yourself, like, yeah, actually at the moment I'm behaving in such a way that's not true to myself, that cultivating some kind of, quote, higher value behaviors may be useful to me in the short and medium term. That's great. Go do that. Go look at some people that you consider to be that. There's probably some things you can learn from them. And at the same time, you may also want this deeper path. If you're really into your own development, or you really want to be free and love yourself and love other people, there's a way that it's easier to love yourself and other people if there's no background noise about who's more valuable or am I valuable enough. Now, to really be with this, you may have to be with some difficult emotions. You may have to sit with yourself in places where historically you would have maybe numbed out or dissociated, or kind of left your body, or repressed. You might have activated a defense mechanism that doesn't just want you to sit with the fact that there may be some places you feel deficient, right? There may be some places where you feel longing, or you feel empty, or you don't even know what you feel. And typically you kind of get around that by stepping into action and doing something that gives you a feedback loop. Like, okay, cool, don't want to feel that. I'm going to go to the gym, work out, feel good about myself. But that will only take you so far. It's good to have those strategies in the locker, right? Because sometimes if we're down in the dumps enough, yeah, it can just be good to say, you know what, I am going to go work out, and I kind of know that predictably that will shift my state. It will put me into a different mindset. That's really powerful. But if that's the sort of subtle unconscious pattern that loops in the back of your life, that every time something comes up that might have you feel deficient, or like there's a hole in you, or there's a pit of emotion that you don't experience, at a certain point you kind of have to face yourself, right? If you want to grow, and if you want to become more your essential self, and not be afraid or shamed by your own felt experience, that it's okay to feel things. It's okay to feel things that you historically might have experienced as feeling bad, and you're feeling them in service of feeling your wholeness. You're feeling them in service of not abandoning yourself, and you're feeling them in service of not having to have a story that there's all these things I have to do in order to be valuable. Right? That actually the right guy, to just bring this back into relationships squarely, the right guy will be magnetized and attracted to the essence of who you are. Right? So if the right guy can be attracted to the essence of who you are, in a way, it's an invitation to show up as your essence. Right? To show up as your essence. Now, if part of that means you're actually sitting here noticing it, in the past I would have tried really hard to impress him with these, quote, high value behaviors, and now I'm not. What it means is the guy that's actually authentically and essentially connected to you, or that gets you at that level, he has a better opportunity, because the person that's attracted to high value behaviors is running the high value behaviors racket on themselves, right? So they will be attracted to that. Oh, right, she's really high value. She does this, she does this, she does this. That's kind of limited from the perspective of a more authentic, essential relationship. And you get to choose. I'm actually not here to tell you what relationship you want. I'm just giving you the maximum invitation to say that the real you, the authentic you, the essential you is valuable, period. Doesn't need explanation, doesn't need bells and whistles, doesn't need fanciness put over it. There's an isness, there's a reality to it. And that if you can learn to trust, to bring that more into relationships, from my experience and in coaching, a lot of people, it will shift what happens for you in relationship. It may take some time, but it will shift because it's no longer the same effort. It's no longer I'm having to try hard. It's no longer, wow, if I don't keep doing these things, that this person isn't going to find me valuable. It's like you kind of get to relax and be who you are, and be who you are in all your ambition and all your apathy. Everything is welcome. That's why this is exciting, because it constellates relationships around a different kind of contract. And the contract is more, you're going to try and be you, I'm going to try and be me, we are going to support each other to be our real selves, and we're going to support each other to notice all the performances, dances, defenses that we bring that stop that were appropriate at an earlier stage of development, but now we're actually orienting to something different where we really want to be ourselves. And that's the value, if you like, of this teaching of value, is that once the noise dials down on your value, you get to be yourself more, the right guy gets to notice you, and you can be in that relationship, which is, that's what you want, that's what I want for you. So, an invitation, if you haven't taken my free webinar, you'll find it below this video. You can click the link and find a time that works for you in your time zone. It's called the 3 Keys to Being Relationship Ready, and it's very much in the vein of this teaching about how to be the real you, your real self, and bring that into relationships. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, just subscribe to the channel, go on, join us, be part of this growing community. It's an awesome community. I'm overwhelmed in a really positive way by everything that this community brings. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being with me.